let's talk a little Illuminati worship, a.k.a. angels and demons. You know, the Illuminati are this, just group of intellectuals and scholars, and, they don't hate the church. No, they're not against the church at all. There's no mention of Luciferianism or Satanism whatsoever. And again, the only people that they mention are Galileo and Bernini, and they show a couple of pentagrams and one or two all-seeing eyes. They don't even go into the back of the dollar bill, the Eye of Horus. There's almost really no symbology outside of a couple statues. It's light on that, say, compared to the Da Vinci Code. And then, of course, at the end, I'm sorry I'm going to ruin this for you, but the Illuminati doesn't really exist. It was just one person in the church who hired one assassin, who thought he was working for this and that and wasn't really working for this and that. It's just, I went to see it because I number one, I wanted to see, how far they whitewashed it. But number two, it was getting great reviews all over the place. And so far, I've seen some pretty big summer action movies. I saw Star Trek. It was okay. I mean, people in this office love it. I mean, it's like the summer movie of the year. I didn't think so. I'm big into the Wolverine. I saw Wolverine. I thought that was the action film of the summer. But I'm going to check out Terminator Salvation. I want to not only see the message, but, I want to check out the whole deal. All right, let's go to who are we on right now? Are we on Dennis in California, or we just do him? All right, Dennis, you're on the line.
Hi, Jason. First of all, let me tell you that I'm really in awe of you and Alex both. You're doing a tremendous job.
Thank you.
It's just amazing that more people aren't waking up. And I can sympathize with the emotions that you have about you're exhibiting the classic fight or flee response. Mm-hmm. Something that I've done before, and I've investigated this a little bit. There's only 4 countries in the world that aren't hooked into the IMF. Those 4 countries are Iran, North Korea, Libya, and Cuba. And Cuba's a great place to go to. It's only 90 miles off the coast, and you might be able to head down that way.
Yeah, but Cuba looks like it's going to be amalgamated into this system too. We're having talks now with Castro, and even Ventura says that if we do start talking to Cuba again, he'd like to be the ambassador to Cuba. And you look at Iran. We've been
he'd like to be the ambassador.
Well, you know what? He's the kind of guy that I would like to be the ambassador. I'm sure things are going to get around him and over his head, and he's going to have his blind spots. But at least I know that he's genuine, that he is trying for the truth. And then let me say this. You look at Iran, and Iran seems to be on the back end now that the Obama administration is here helping in the war on terror. They carpet bombed, a few villages in Iraq a couple of weeks ago. We've started talking to them in sanctions, and you haven't.
Iran has actually provided intelligence to the United States even before they attacked, even before we attacked Iraq.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. And
Iran was a warehouse or a storehouse of intelligence for our armed forces, and this is totally glossed over.
And you know what? In my next film, Invisible Empire, which is really just all about the New World Order and the organizations, pertaining to it and the methodology and all this other stuff, one of the foreign ministers from Iran gives a speech on the New World Order back in the 90s in front of the United Nations, and he lays out the entire thing from, the environmental issues to the union issues to, where their place in the New World Order is going to be, using the term New World Order well over a baker dozen time in an hour. So don't tell me that the upper echelons of power there aren't in on the globalist game too, my friend.
Well, these Iranians aren't, they're no slouches. They're pretty intelligent people. They were our allies for quite a number of years. We did supply the Shah with armament, and he supplied us with a base of power and oil in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's right. We had to overthrow Mossadegh. That's another false flag out that we did. I mean, we go into their country, we start blowing up mosques, and then we litter the place.
Why do they not like us?
Yeah, gee, I wonder why. And then we litter the place with, flyers that say "Up with Mossadegh," and then we take him out of power. A democratically elected leader, and we put in the Shah to radicalize the nation. Gee, I just don't understand.
Yeah. And then we loose the savak on all the people in Iran. And as a matter of fact, I was in Iran. I won't say when, but and I was approached by the savak. They tried to get me into saying, that I knew, people on campus and had ties with dissidents and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I was clearly not. I shouldn't have been a target at all. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of stuff that goes on. But we're kind of getting off the track here. Mm-hmm. What I wanted to say was that there's the fight or the flee response.
Fight or flight,
the flee, fight or flight. But you've exhibited the flight response. But the real deal is that at some point or other, we as the people have to go ahead and demonstrate that, number one, we're aware of what's going on. Number two, we don't like it. And number three, that we're organized enough to go ahead and put the fear of God into the government. Mm-hmm. Okay, now there's a couple of different ways, but the simplest way is to organize a strike, a national strike. Mm-hmm. And I'm very surprised that nobody's ever thought of this.
It's been tried, man, especially in the Patriot movement over the years. There was a national day of striking on the run up to.
Yeah, but there wasn't enough. There wasn't the type of threats to our way of life that there are now.
Well, that's because it just keeps increasing. I mean, those
escalating. Yes, exactly.
Let me say this, Dennis. Those threats were there, but they hadn't amassed to the level they are at today. Because as I keep saying, time keeps slipping into the future. But the architecture was there. DHS was there. The Patriot Acts 1 and 2 were there. The Military Commissions Act was there. We were still in 2 wars. This is around the same time that the Democrats were supposed to save us in 2006 and get us out of the war, and then again in 2008. There's been a couple of these strike attempts, these general strike attempts, and they just have not worked. And quite frankly, I don't know if our audience is broad enough to make that happen. I wish it could. I mean, the way that we handled the Ron Paul revolution was unbelievable, and the mainstream media, sucked that out from under us as well. So who knows? I would love to see it happen. Anything's possible. We have to stay positive, and we have to work towards a goal, and maybe that one's it. Maybe it's this movie idea. I don't have all the answers. I'm just...
Oh, no, the movie idea is a great way of awakening people. Mm-hmm. But once people are awake, then there has to be some sort of
action to be taken.
Demonstration. Yes, yeah. Some sort of action. Now, there's a lot of different ways. You could say, well, you've mentioned the who are those guys, the militias and all of that. Mm-hmm. But that's entering into something that would be
super dangerous category. Super dangerous.
Your back's up against the wall and you have nowhere to go. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing.
That's Listen, I've done this before. Like, for instance, on the 5th anniversary of 9/11, on the run up to that, when Loose Change 2nd Edition was just huge everywhere. I was doing, 2 or 3 radio shows a day, begging people to come down to New York in an Investigate 9/11 T-shirt that we would provide, and we handed out 10,000 DVDs at Ground Zero. That was what Jesse Ventura was actually talking about on Fox and Friends when he was talking about the protests. We had 2,000 to 3,000 people at Ground Zero. We were all over the place. We got rid of 10,000 DVDs in less than, I believe it was less than an hour. I mean, literally gone. 10,000 DVDs just evaporating on the streets of New York City. Mainstream media, you want to know who covered it? Glenn Beck covered it. Said there were only hundreds of us and canceled me that day to be on the show because I had worked Jimmy Meggs from Popular Mechanics earlier in the day. And we had been booked for 2 weeks. And they just said, no, you're not coming on. They marginalized us, and he was one of the few people that even reported on it.
That just demonstrates the power of the media moguls, mm-hmm. the established media. The Fourth Estate, which is the press, has actually done a complete disservice to the American people. Okay, they've been co-opted, they've been bought off. I don't know whether it's just that they're lazy, they don't understand their job, or
some of them are just ignorant. Some of them are lazy. Some of them do toe the line. But at the upper echelons of power, it's like, no, you're not printing this story, or this has to go that way. Or somebody like George Moonbayat, who wrote like 3 different hit pieces on 9/11 Truth. He's out of The Guardian. He writes a book By the way, he just signed on with 45 other authors